Gilbert Stuart. He had a rough time but finally achieved fame and fortune. Gilbert Stuart was born just before Christmas 1755 in a little house to which was attached his father's water wheel and snuff mill at the headwaters of Narrow River. The house is still standing, as is also the water wheel and mill, now a museum run by the Gilbert Stuart Memorial Association. Gilbert was baptized shortly after his birth into the Church of England by his neighbor, the Reverend James McSparran. This didn't seem to have much effect on his later life. As time went on, the young man showed little interest in helping his father grind tobacco into snuff, but showed him a remarkable talent for drawing pictures of most any subject. When Gilbert was 12 years old, the family moved to Newport to afford a better education for the young artist and his older sister. A younger brother had died before Gilbert was born. This caused his mother to be very indulgent toward her older son, something which might have proved to his disadvantage. In Newport, young Stuart went to the Reverend George Bissell's school. When about 14, he made a very nice painting of two dogs belonging to Dr. Hunter, the family physician. This picture has been preserved and was for a time in the Redwood Library in Newport. Now it hangs over the fireplace mantel in the restored Hunter House in Newport. He also about this time painted portraits of a prominent Newport couple, Mr. and Mrs. John Bannister. They were also preserved and are now in the Redwood Library. When 18 years of age, Gilbert went to Scotland with a Mr. Alexander who had been his teacher in Newport, who felt much could be done to develop the boy's talents abroad. Alexander died soon after they arrived there, and young Stuart was left on his own recourses. Never having been one to realize the value of money and never having to do for himself, after 2 years of privation, he finally worked his way back home on a ship coming to America. United again with his family, he used his unusual talent to paint portraits of several wealthy Newport people. They paid him very well, but he was still profligate with money and always existed on the edge of poverty. He spent his time in Newport painting, but seemed to get no results financially until the coming of the Revolution. Those were stirring times, but Gilbert was then 21 years old and ripe for military service in the Continental Army. The day before the Battle of Bunker Hill, he sailed for England. He was hoping there to contact and study with Sir Benjamin West, a painter from Philadelphia, who had gone to England and gained fame and fortune. He did not find West for some time, and soon fell upon hard times. One day while walking the streets of London, probably wondering where his next food might come from, he happened upon a church where an organist was needed. Several were trying for the job. Stuart tried out and played so well he got the position at £150 per year. This was a help and stood between him and starvation until he had a stroke of good luck, meeting one of the church people who knew artist West and introduced them. West immediately recognized the talent of the young man from America, had him study under him, and took him into his home to live. This was perhaps the beginning of Gilbert Stuart's rise to fame. Soon a picture which he painted of skaters on an English river was recognized as an outstanding success, was offered to the Royal Academy, and there hung in one of the best galleries. He now became the rage as a portrait painter, and had more work than he could do. Money rolled in, but he spent it lavishly, and was usually much in debt. He later married the daughter of an English doctor, much against her parents' wishes. She too was a rather poor manager of the family funds. For a while they continued to live in England, then in Dublin, and later returned to New York. Although not in favor of following the general into the Revolutionary War, Stuart, after his return to America, became a great admirer of George Washington and had a desire to paint his portrait. In 1794, he finally arranged for a sitting and began a portrait of the then president. The first painting was not a success. Some thought this was due to Stuart's awe of the great man. He later painted 2 portraits of Washington, which were both a great success. These are accepted as the most faithful likenesses of Washington. One is in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston and one in the Rhode Island State House. A list of paintings made by Gilbert Stuart after he came back to America included more than 800 portraits. These included many famous people. Among them were Mr. and Mrs. Paul Revere, Mr. and Mrs. John Adams, Madame Bonaparte, and John Jacob Astor. Gilbert Stuart died in July 1829 and is buried on the Old Cemetery on Boston Common.